Hallo zukünftige Deutsche und Deutscherinnen, wie geht's heute? Okay then, so last lesson we did die Fahrzeuge, which are vehicles in German, das Auto, der Bus, etc. And this lesson we are learning about something which is seasonal, something which is going on right now, well, would have been, as it says, dieses Jahr leider abgesagt wegen COVID. So it's called Das Oktoberfest, which just means the October Festival, and it normally takes place in Germany in Munich, which is a city in southern Germany. It normally takes place there, starting at the end of September until around about the 6th of October, I think it is. This year it's unfortunately cancelled because of COVID, but families and groups or whatever can probably like celebrate it in their own way. But yeah, it's just a very famous 209-year-old German festival, and I just thought I'd make a video about it given that it's October. Okay, so yeah, das Oktoberfest dieses Jahr, this year, this year, leider, unfortunately, it's a good connective word, abgesagt, cancelled, wegen, because of, COVID. So if you're looking to expand your vocabulary, there's some interesting words there, which I've just told you the meaning of. Okay. But obviously, we have our new employees. It is not Heidi and Hans, for those of you who missed the last video. So, wie bereiten sich Monika und Klaus auf das Oktoberfest vor? How are Monica and Klaus preparing for the Oktoberfest? So you'll see here it says bereiten as a verb, and then it randomly says for at the end. That's something called a separable verb, which we will come on to later on in the video as a bit of a grammar note. But it is mainly about the Oktoberfest. Also, Klaus says, du gespannt auf das Oktoberfest? And Monica says, ja, ich freue darauf. And Klaus says, und wie im Allgemeinen? And then she'll say, ja, mir geht's gut, weil und So you need to fill in what they say. I'll give you some time to pause the video and have a go at that. Okay, so here's something you could have got. Also, Klaus, bist du gespannt auf das Oktoberfest? This one, ist, you needed to have that. You couldn't say anything else. Also, bist du gespannt auf das Oktoberfest? This means, are you, bist du, gespannt, excited, auf, for, das Oktoberfest, the Oktoberfest. So, are you excited for the Oktober Festival? And then Monica says, ja, ich freue mich darauf. This one again, you couldn't have had differently. Mich means me. This literally means, yes, I make myself happy about that. So it means I'm looking forward to it. Ja, ich freue mich darauf. And Klaus says, und wie geht's im Allgemeinen? And how's it going in general? And Monica says, ja, mir geht's gut, weil es Freitag ist. I don't know if it's Freitag where you are. It's not for me, but I don't know. It is wherever they are. Und das Oktoberfest beginnt. So, because it's Friday and the October Festival is beginning. Okay. Ja, ich habe die Verben wieder verlegt. I've misplaced, lost my verbs again. Also, you need to do the first person singular, ich, I, and second person singular, etc., etc. And then obviously you need to do the past. This wasn't included in the last video, but you should know the patterns of the past tense by now. And I've given you the GE, the GE to start you off. So I'll give you some time to pause the video and have a go at that. Okay, so here's what you should have got. The first person singular, I come, is ich komme. The second person singular for you come is du kommst. The third person singular for he, she, or it comes is sie oder es kommt. The first person plural for we come is wir kommen. The second person plural for you, plural, come, we vary it in German, we don't in English, is ihr kommt. And the third person plural for, they come is sie kommen. And the past is ich bin gekommen. I nearly said ich habe then. It's not ich habe, it's ich bin gekommen. Certain verbs don't use haben for their past tense. They use sein. And gekommen is one of them. It's not ich habe gekommen, it's ich bin gekommen. So yeah, now we've done that. Also, was ist das Oktoberfest? So I'll read this bit out in German. So was ist das Oktoberfest? You should know what that means. What is the Oktoberfest? So then there are some pictures here which I'll explain in a second. But firstly, I'll read this out in German and then translate it into English for you. Das Oktoberfest ist ein Fest, das in Bayern, einem Bundesland in Süddeutschland, stattfindet. Very brief, but here's what it means in English word for word. Das, the, Oktoberfest, October Festival, ist, is, ein, a, Fest, festival, das, that, in Bayern, in Bavaria, you may have heard of it called Bavaria, or you may have heard of Bayern München, they come from Munich, and the football team. Das in Bayern, that in Bavaria, which doesn't make sense, but we'll get to that in a minute. Einem Bundesland, a county, or it's not really a county, it's a region, in Süddeutschland, in South Germany, stattfindet, takes place. So this literally means the Oktoberfest is a festival that takes place because due to the das catapults the verb stattfindet to the end of the sentence. So, das in Bayern, einem Bundesland in Süddeutschland stattfindet. The Oktober Festival is a festival that takes place in Bavaria, a region in South Germany. Also, hier sind einige lustige Fakten. Here are some fun facts about das Oktoberfest. So, I'll read them out in German, then I'll translate them into English. Im Jahr 2018 wurden auf dem Oktoberfest 7,9 Millionen Liter Bier getrunken. So, in the year 2018, 7.9 million litres of beer were drunk in the Oktoberfest, were consumed in the Oktoberfest. The next one also begins with im Jahr, in the year. Im Jahr 1955 mussten sie die Steinkrüge durch Glaskrüge ersetzen, um die Menge des ausgeschenkten und getrunkenen Biers zu regulieren. In the year 1955, they had to swap the stone steins or cups of beer with glass ones in order to regulate the amount of beer that was poured and therefore drunk. That's how much was being drunk in that year. Sounds like a pretty hectic year. Okay, das Oktoberfest ist das größte und älteste Bierfest der Welt. The Oktober Festival is the biggest and the oldest beer festival in the world. Das Festival bringt Bayern 1.4.300.000 US-Dollar aus dem Tourismus. The festival makes Bavaria, as in the region of Germany, 1.43 billion US dollars from tourism each year. Each year, it should say. Jedes Jahr. Okay. The next fact. 70% der Besucher des Festivals sind eigentlich Bayern. 70%, it is a tourism magnet, but 70% of the people who attend the festival / go there are actually from Bavaria. Also, grammatikalische Anmerkung. Trennbare Verben. Wart man schnell. Here you saw stattfindet. Now, it may look unassuming, which is just a verb. However, it's actually ein trennbare Verb. So, I'll explain this with this grammatikalische Anmerkung. Okay, so, in German, some verbs are separable. Trennbare is separable, meaning that there are two parts to the verb which in the infinitive, which is to run, I like to run, that's the infinitive when you say to run, or in English, running, or to play or to walk, etc. That's the infinitive. They're glued together as one word or one verb, so they look the same. But when they're used as verbs, i.e. in the present tense and in some other tenses, which we'll cover in future videos, the prefix jumps to the end of the clause. Separable verbs are never random. There are certain prefixes you should always look out for. Some of them include, not all of them, there are a lot, but some of them include for, statt, in, and an. Those are 5 of them. For example, nachahmen, that doesn't use one of the ones there. Nachahmen means to copy. So the infinitive, if you wanted to say to copy, you would just say nachahmen, and it's all together as one word, one verb. However, if you want to say I copy it, ik ahme es nach. Now why does it do that? Well, the prefix is nach. Ahmen is actually another verb in German that means something else. Nach means a completely different thing, and it's used as a prefix here. Prefix, not prefix. So it's nach, the prefix nach, added onto the beginning of the verb ahmen to make nachahmen. And when you use it in the present tense is the example we're using here, you put the second part, i.e. the verb, ich ahme, as normal, and then you put the object, if there is one, the direct object, i.e. es, it, and then you put the prefix nach. So, ich ahme es nach. Well, ich, it's fine. Any's fine. I changed between them myself. Ich ahme es nach. Another example, fortfahren. Fortfahren. That, once again, does not use one of the 5 examples I gave you above. It uses a new one, and the prefix here, I should say it's important to know what the prefix is. I should maybe have highlighted them, but yeah, the prefix here is fort, F-O-R-T. And then fahren is a different verb, which actually means to drive or to travel. So fortfahren means to continue. We continue is wir fahren fort. You put the fort to the end, but in the infinitive, to continue, you keep it as one word, fortfahren. Hopefully you're getting the hang of that. Wie funktionieren sie? How do they work? How do they function? So as previously said in the previous slide, the verbs are made up of 2 parts, a prefix and a different verb. When I say a different verb, I mean a different verb from the German language, which means something else. So, which means a different thing. Usually, though, you can actually see it's sehr logisch. It's very logical. It's something related to the meaning of the resulted separable verb. If that doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter, because that's not actually part of the grammar. I'm just saying the verb isn't random. It's to do with the verb that results from it, the separable verb that results from the gluing together, if you will. The verb is used as it would be without the prefix, but the prefix is added at the end of the sentence to change the meaning of the verb. So, mitarbeiten is the verb to collaborate. Mit means with, and arbeiten means to work. So the verb literally means with work, work with, which makes sense because, like I say, it makes sense because collaborate is working with someone. So mit, with, arbeiten, work. So it does make sense. It's not completely random. It's not like they go abfahren. That is a different separable verb, which means something else. But yeah, it's not like they choose 2 random words that have nothing to do with the meaning of the separable verb. Mitarbeiten, with work or work with, to collaborate. Wir arbeiten is we work. But the important thing to remember is when you put the mit, the prefix on the end, it changes the meaning of the verb entirely. So wir arbeiten is we work. Wir arbeiten mit is we collaborate. Putting that one prefix on the end changes the entire meaning of the original verb. Obviously not drastically because they are related words, but it does change them. So, einige trennbare Verben die für das Oktoberfest relevant sind. So that's the end of our grammatikalische Anmerkung. That's the end of the grammar note. So here are some examples which are to do with the Oktoberfest. So this first one is an interesting one. Vorglühen. Now, vor means before and glühen means glow. So vorglühen technically means to glow before, but it's a colloquialism for something which you may not have heard of, to have pre-drinks. I don't know if you've heard that as a phrase, as an idiom, to have pre-drinks. Anyway, to have drinks before your main drinking event, vorglühen. So, for example, if you want to say, we have pre-drinks, you would say, wir glühen vor. Okay. Nachtrinken. Nachtrinken is to top up, i.e. a drink. So, ich trinke es nach. I top it up. Anrufen is to phone somebody. So, you need to take the an, which is the prefix, and you need to put it on the end, but use rufen as usual. So, I rufe, ich rufe ihn an. The anrufen means to phone. So, ausgehen is to go out. Aus is the prefix, gehen is the verb. Aus means out, gehen means go. So to go out, it makes complete sense. Some of them are literally the literal meaning of the separable verb. The compound verb is the literal meaning of the the literal meaning of the verb is the same as the intended meaning. So ausgehen literally means to go out, and it means to go out when translated. So we go out is wir gehen aus. We go out. Einkaufen. Einkaufen. The prefix is ein and the verb is kaufen. This means to go shopping. For example, if you want to say they go shopping in the town, sie kaufen in der Stadt ein. I should mention here, it says sie kaufen, they buy. In der Stadt means in the city, and then you put the ein. You wouldn't say sie kaufen ein in der Stadt. It goes literally right to the end of the clause. If there are multiple clauses, for example, it's split up with und, you wouldn't put it at the end of the next clause or at the end of the last clause. You just need to put it at the end of the current clause. So, sie kaufen in der Stadt ein. Everything else comes before it, and the ein goes to the end. The next one. Aufräumen. Aufräumen. To clean or to tidy up. So, this says räumt. That's a typo. It doesn't need the F. The F is not needed. It's räumt auf. He cleans up. Räumt auf. The F is not needed. It's not räumt, it's räumt. Now, I should mention here, an A with an umlaut, that's the two dots on the top, followed by U makes an I sound. Räumt. Aufräumen. Räumt auf. Now, zurückkommen. Zurückkommen. To come back. Now, zurück means back, kommen means come, so it's a literal translation again. Kommt zurück. No biggie. Hervorhaben. Now, the way you could get confused here is hervor. For is actually its own prefix, it's its own preposition, but hervor means something else. So hervorhaben is to bring something out. For example, sie bringt etwas hervor. She brings something out. Etwas, something. Also, the verb of the day, I guess, is stattfinden, to take place. So first person singular, ich finde statt, or just ich finde statt, I take place, a bit of a weird thing to say. Second person singular, du findest statt, er, sie oder es findet statt, wir finden statt, ihr findet statt, sie finden statt, as you would expect it, knowing about separable verbs. Also, vielen Dank und bis nächstes Mal.